Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts, and this is Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, June 26, 2018. I got a couple finished objects this week. I finished another one of my dishcloths. And I finished the Americana red, white, and blue American flag scarf. Earlier this month I decided to start just doing a simple project at night, a basic garter stitch, a hat, a scarf, something after dinner that doesn't take a lot of thought process, because sometimes I end up falling asleep in my recliner after dinner for about 20-30 minutes, and you really don't want to be doing that while you're knitting something complex. So I thought, well, it'd be a great idea just go ahead and work on something simple. So if my needles fall out or I skip a stitch, it's easy to fix and it won't matter. I bought 2 skeins of this yarn, so I still have enough. I'm putting a hat to go for it. When you're knitting a scarf, or when you're making a scarf, what they say is if you make it the width of your hands, of your arms, from fingertip to fingertip, that will match the height of your body, and that's the perfect length for a scarf. Now this one, I hold it with one hand here. I have a bit extra. I wanted to make sure I had the repeats, and when I did it, I wanted to have the red and the white on one end and then the blue stars on the other, so you didn't have to worry about it being matchy, and as you twist it around you however many times or however you do it, it would work out. I guess some people fold it in half and go like this. I said, I don't know, I'm not a scarf person. Once again, the main part of my week was spent on t-shirt quilts. This is the one that has the, I call it the bearskin rug, fuzzy back. All 3 of them had been sandwiched, the right sides together, stitch around, flip them, pull them all out, stitch it around again, close up the hole type of thing. This is the last one that actually needs to be tied. One of the things that happened is as I was stitching them, everything kind of moved. When I flipped them back around, this material didn't want to stay behind and make it even. So I went ahead and left it kind of like a border or a binding. So all around them it has this fuzzy material. The only any place that it's different is on the corner. For some reason it just didn't want to pull out. I guess that's just the nature of the corner. But it's okay because it still has a little bit of a border. And then it has that all the way around. This one I got really lucky. I had a generous donation from one of my subscribers. They sent me a whole bunch of embroidery floss, and it had this perfect blue that matched this blue top perfect. Well, perfectly. Perfectly perfect. Now as you can see, this one I didn't have to worry. The polar fleece on the back. So it stayed where it belonged and I didn't have to worry about it. I just made sure I stitched all the way around like you normally do. And then I put a row of ties all the way here just to keep it from trying to roll it all. I don't know if it'll help, but in my mind it did. And this quilt just has entirely all done in the same blue. I did a sort of grid work. I just kind of put a stitch in and I put my hand here. And I kind of went, oh, this looks like a good spot. Let me make sure they're semi, they're not like even, but they're okay. I didn't want it to be perfect because if you go a little, I didn't want to do all that measuring and all the measuring to make sure everything was in the exact right spots. And I wanted to I like to heavily quilt my quilts, so I wanted to make sure I did more than just tie it in the corners here. I wanted to make sure everything stayed exactly where it was supposed to be because there's no batting, and with no quilting, I just didn't want anything to shift. And with this about 4 or 5 inches apart on the semi-grid, it kept it so it didn't have too many into the t-shirt pieces, but just enough. And they don't stand out too much. You have to kind of look for them a little bit. I consider this one out of the 3 the most perfect. It came out really well. All all the ties worked out nicely. Everything landed nice and neat. Now for the problem child. This one with this really soft. They look like little roses to me. You see them right here, they kind of like swirl like little roses. Now once again, this one went around the corner, so it has this like little border or binding on it. As I was stitching these on my machine, and my machine did not like this fabric whatsoever, This one came out a little bit more wonky than the others. I was able to control most of the stretch by pinning it really well when I was doing right sides together, but I didn't account for when I flipped it around that it would also kind of stretch things out of kilter. The biggest problem was this bottom row, specifically Scooby here. He was so wavy, it kind of just took this whole back corner and just dragged it down. And it was all wonky and out of sorts, and I couldn't figure out how. It was so frustrating when I was working on it. I couldn't figure out how to get everything to lay right and how to get it to go good. As you can see, it's not perfectly straight along the bottom, but it's going to be okay once it gets washed and everything. So what I did to cheat the system here is, you can't see it, but okay, this Scooby square had a border of these paw prints all the way around. It had a good 3/4 of an inch, inch and a half. I don't remember what it was, but it was a nice wide enough border that it was noticeable. So what I did, I ended up smoothing all of this fabric down, and then I actually just made a fold and I tucked it under. And then I restitched all around. You can't see it, but like right up to here is where I can feel it. It's a good 3/4 of an inch that I tucked up underneath there, and then I just put the ties on, and I went ahead and just stitched all around it again. I can feel it, and I know what it's there and what it means, but I don't think anyone else would recognize it if I didn't tell them, and I won't be telling them. I had to do the same thing all along this side. I had to pull this fabric over because it was just too loosey-goosey. And once again, I just pulled it over and I just restitched all along. You can kind of see here's the original edge, and then I just pulled this fabric up and I stitched it again. Most of the times it came back over and met this edge, so you don't see no difference. Like through here. Now, now that I've pointed out and you know what you're looking for, you can kind of see like where it ended here. I just went up like this. It's got this little bit of a tuck right here that you can see. Now it was like that in a couple other places where it was a little bit more obvious, so I just stuck a knot on it. I just tied another knot there. Kind of like here, I couldn't get this to pull all the way over, so it's got this little ripple. So I would have just stuck a knot right there, and I tied it, and it's going to hold that little fold in place, and it's not really going to be noticeable. You're going to say, oh, why is there 3 knots together like that? Well, you know, it doesn't really matter because I put a bunch of knots together everywhere. On this one, wherever I just felt like I wanted to stick one, I stuck one. I was going to try to match up, like put a green embroidery floss and a green paw, but then I decided, nah, forget it. I'm just going to go ahead and go like that. So 2 of the quilts are done completely, and I'm going to go ahead and tie this one, and then they're going to be going out into the mail sometime this week. It took me about 3.5 weeks to get these all completely done. I think they turned out really well. They all need to go through a spin through the washing machine. Make sure nothing falls apart. I always like to throw them through the wash to make sure no seams pop, and then they will be off to their new owners. So that's it for me. That's all I worked on mostly this week. I did a little bit of knitting here and there and finished the scarf and finished the dishcloth. But this has been like my life for the whole month. I'll be really happy to get these finished and on their way to their new owners so I can start working on something new. I hope everyone has a wonderful week and gets a little bit of time to do something crafty. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye!